Hey guys, welcome back. Maverick here, continuing on today with another episode of Isekai Meikyuu de Harem. So, at the end of last episode, Nichio kinda sorta dropped hints once again that he's looking for a new party member, and as I said before, judging from the pacing, I think we will have enough time before the end of the season to get to the second member, yeah, the second party member, second member of the harem, whatever you want to call it. And perhaps she will first be introduced in this episode. I'm not entirely sure right now. I guess let's just get into it and find out together. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Seventh floor. Nope, it's the rabbit. Hey, it's a pelt. Well, this one actually kind of makes sense, right? Even though, if you think about it, you use a fireball on a rabbit and then it drops, a fluffy pelt. But that's the logic of this world. Looking at these rabbits with like red eyes, right? Definitely brings back memories of ReZero. If you guys remember last season where we had the crazy rabbits. And I do like they have this concept of buying in bulk, right? I think, 10 episodes in, and especially like, Mishu has only learned magic for like, what, 3 episodes, 4 episodes, something like that sort. And you can kind of see where the repetitiveness of this series will eventually come in. And where the limitations of the magic system really is sort of holding it back. Again, I haven't really read further than when they eventually get to the 5th member, so I'm not sure if there is a big improvement in the future, whether the offer sort of like reimagines or adds on new mechanics to the magic system or whatnot. It must be nice for all resources you need to all be gathered in just like one area. You want food, you want leather, you want clothing, you want magic items. Just go into the labyrinth. Everything is there. Oh, red rapid rabbit. Try saying that. Ooh. Overwhelming. Yep. I think overwhelming is definitely a skill that sort of like heightens your senses, I guess. They never really fully explain like what overwhelming is. Rabbit meat. Yeah, like I was saying, you want food, you want food, you want clothing, you want magical items, you want gear. That's all in the labyrinth. Shima? No. And once again, welcome to the Labyrinth Cooking Show. There will be a ton of this, as we continue on. Although, probably not so much in this season. Rabbit meat, eh? Have I had rabbit meat before? I mean, I don't really come from a country that does a lot of, like, wild game hunting, so... I don't actually think I've had rabbit meat before. I've had deer meat, venison, but rabbit? Talk about death flags all over the place, right? Like, honestly, even without reading on ahead, just look at all those death flags popping out. Wait. Yeah, Roxanne's just like, meh. Par for the course in this world, right? Whereas Michio is having an existential crisis. And of course, further reinforcing some of his beliefs as well, both in terms of, how he needs to cherish his own life and the lives of his party, the members around him, and also to strengthen himself and the party overall as well, right? Once again, like, we're having sexy times right now. Well, like I said before, I do check it out later, the uncensored version, but I won't be watching it on as a YouTube reaction live, the uncensored version. I mean, what exactly do you want me to add there? Like, wow, those bits are really flinging around, right? Like, who wants to hear commentary like that? See, this is one of the reasons why I like this series, and I like Michio's character this much, is because in a lot of different shows, the main protagonists, right, they either go one of two different ways, right? One where maybe they don't really acknowledge this kind of, you know, uh, this sort of human fragileness at all. They don't acknowledge it at all. They're just like, your typical shonen character. I will be able to overcome everything, right? Or we also have the sort of like opposite, right? Where we have some characters where they make it to the point of, I don't know, like getting depressed, or yeah, I'm sure she's warm. To the point of getting depressed, or really, getting to be whiny and annoying, right, in regards to the entire situation. Whereas for Michio, he's just looking at it logically, right? He realizes once again, the extent of his capabilities, the fact that, hey, he could die at any time. And so, what does he do? He actively tries to do something about it. See? Very positive outlook. And, just try to be more careful, take all precautions. Oh, is this 100? Oh, okay. Stacks of 32, eh? That's odd. Stacks of 32. Okay, never mind. I'm just thinking that's an odd number to choose, actually. Time for shopping. Hmm. And of course, because he wants to see it. And of course, the reason he gets two is to activate, like, his discount ability. So what, 3,900? You can. Again, there has to be an easier way to do this, but alright. Oh. 3 again. Calling Coraline. Second. Oh, and they don't censor this? Alright. Hey, it's just a finger. There's no need to censor anything, right? Actually, you know what? This is actually new. Yeah, this is actually completely new. Um, which I'm actually glad. Like, this kind of sounds weird, but like I said, in the novels and in the manga, actually, their sexy times have been relatively vanilla, right? Like, and I mean really, really vanilla, which is kind of like one of my biggest complaints about it. I guess you could say. Well, I mean, obviously, I have complaints about some of the core mechanics and stuff as well. But regarding the sexy times and whatnot, one of my main complaints would be that it's it's quite vanilla. Like maybe they did do something like this, right? But I'm pretty sure they did not dwell on it this much. I would remember. So yeah, I think this is actually something new for the anime. And again, like, Roxanne is such a little vixen, right? She obviously knows what's going on, but she plays along. And you know what? I applaud them for this. I applaud them for this. Why would you need to censor? You know, in some ways, I actually think looking at the censored version is more interesting than the uncensored version. You know, you really get the feeling of, you know, what the hell they are thinking, and I don't know, it's actually quite funny to me the way that they do censor it and, you know, all that. Alright, so I guess we don't see the new party member in this episode. We're really cutting it close though. We're really cutting it close. Yeah, you just put it on to take it off, right? Ooh, free at once. Is it the skill card or I mean skill crystal? For some reason, like I always think of skill card because you know, again, this series reminds me a lot of an MMORPG called Ragnarok Online, and in that particular game, they drop skill cards and not skill crystals. But anyways, see you guys after this. Alright guys, that was episode 10, and actually two very interesting things happen in this episode, right? I will get the obvious one out of the way first, which is, of course, the sexy times. As I said before, I think this is an anime original. I guess they also, like the production studio and whatnot, they also realized that they needed to spice things up a little bit. Again, I'm not 100% sure, my memory is a little bit fuzzy. I read this series a long time ago. But I'm pretty sure that that bathroom scene did not, that washroom scene did not actually happen in the original series, or the original in the original light novels or manga. And if it did, then it was definitely not as explicit as they showed here, right? They definitely expanded on the scenes a bit more for the sake of the viewer, of course, which, you know, as I said before, I'm sure a lot of people are watching this just for those scenes, and I mean, they know what their audience is, right? I mean, not to mention it is a sort of like logical next step. So actually, when you think about it, did that actually happen? I don't know, but I feel like if it did, I should have memory of it because it's just such a you know, it's such a natural but also unnatural transition, if you guys get what I mean. So, again, I'm not really sure, but I'm currently leaning towards that. In any case, the anime did decide to expand on the scenes a little bit, which, as I said before, I applaud them for it, right? They needed to spice things up a little bit. After all, you know, you can only have so many sexy times with the same vanilla, you know, things that they've been doing up to this point, right? So they gotta change it up a little bit. So good on them, and you know, before we add the next party member as well. Speaking of which, so once again, at the end of this episode, we once again see Michio, talking about gaining another party member, right? And it makes a lot of sense. You need more people in order to handle groups of enemies. And especially right now he wants another frontliner or another melee fighter, if you will, because Michio wants to utilize magic more. And so if in this kind of situation, right, if Roxanne goes up front and decides to go on the offensive, then especially when they are outnumbered, the monsters can easily flank them and go directly for Michio, and you got to protect your backline, right? So having another member definitely alleviates that. So it's all a logical conclusion to all of this, and definitely not because we want to add one more person for the fun times, if you will. But don't worry, that will obviously happen as well. Although once again, with these episodes cutting it so close, I'm not. Well, actually, now that I think about it, one episode is all we need, because if I'm thinking about it correctly, yeah, we might actually end just on the sexy times with the new party member. And I guess that might count as a spoiler, but I feel like a lot of people aren't expecting that anyways. And not to mention, I'm not 100% sure, right? The pacing for this, as I said, it's cutting it real close. There's only 12 episodes. We have 2 more episodes before we get to the end, so we'll see about that. And then beyond that, though, I think the other thing in this episode, which I guess they actually haven't mentioned up to this point, right? So for a lot of people who are looking at this series in terms of the world building, the mechanics and whatnot, the gamification of the systems, I think this is actually the first time they mentioned this, which is skill crystals, right? Well, I guess they mentioned before, empty slots, right? They showed slots on the weapons and equipment. So that in itself should already give you a little bit of an understanding of, there is something that they can do to augment those weapons and augment those equipments using those open and empty slots, right? And so here, this is what there is, right? They're going to use these crystals in order to augment the weapons, enhance them, and allow them to take on different properties, right? Once again, gaming 101. This is very basic gamification stuff, MMORPG stuff, but I just, like I said, this series just really takes on this sort of gamification aspect and just completely runs with it, right? You are literally almost like playing an MMORPG here in this world, and for some reason, this is something that a lot of other series don't do, which you just go like, why don't they do this, right? But here they clearly and continuously take on this sort of like gamification aspect of it, and they just run with it. That's part of the series. So again, that's part of the reason why I love this series so much, even though it definitely has a lot of flaws. Like, don't get me wrong, this is definitely not in my top isekais or top fantasy series of all time or whatnot, but for what it is and for its take on a lot of different things, I respect it. And Michio, once again, his personality, the way that he does things, really resonates me in a lot of ways. He's also not afraid to get down and dirty, as you guys can see from this episode, if he needs to be. He's not like overtly cautious to a point, or overtly conscious of the girls and not do anything and whatnot. At the same time, he's not like too overtly perverted either, which you also get from a lot of different I guess borderlining on hentai sort of stuff. And he just goes about his life, one step at a time and very logically. And once again, I dig it, right? I feel like if I were to be isekai, I keep on saying this, and even from the very first episode, right? If I were to be isekai, I would be doing exactly the same things as Michio is doing, taking the exact same precautions and steps and whatnot, and making sure that you gotta survive first, and then you gotta survive well. You gotta live well, right? Like what's the common term right now? Is it surviving and thriving, or something of that sort? I can't kind of like a lot of like survivalists like to use the word surviving, thriving. I think that was it. I can't quite remember right now, and so that's number one to Michio, right? And why do we keep on getting these intermissions between diving down into the dungeon, right? Because diving down or labyrinth, because diving into the labyrinth really is only for allowing you to live a good life outside of it, right? You're working in order to enjoy life. You're not living life to work. And so that's why we have a lot of these intermissions with the sexy times and whatnot. And then obviously, you know, the Labyrinth cooking show, which will only get more and more prominent as time goes on. But probably we won't see that much of it in this season. So yeah, that's basically it. So again, continuing on, I still expect them to gain the next party member in the next 2 episodes and end on a high note there, and you know, serve as a good teaser to let everybody continue to read the novel or manga. So with that in mind, I will see you guys next time. Until then, bye bye.